on this
Go
live,
for it.
right? All right, cool.
Okay, we should be good.
Yes, it's just tobacco in a paper, right?
It's tobacco in a water pipe.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's legal and where I'm at. So,
All
and I'm
right.
streaming.
That's
Hello,
fun.
Are we live?
everybody.
I don't know.
Welcome. This is Sundays are for the Simps. It's a play on the Saturdays are for the boys, but obviously most male feminists on TikTok are called Simps. So have fun with that. The goal today, right, is to just talk about toxic masculinity in social media and specifically pertaining to TikTok because that's a platform that all of us are on. Not me per se. I'm just here to guide the conversation. But I'll have everyone go around and you can say your ats and everything. And if you have anything you want to put in before we get started, feel free.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
My name is Jonah. I'm 18, part of the Socialist Type House. I don't really use my personal, so I don't really feel like giving it out. And I'm happy to be here.
Cool. So I'm CrazyBeard71 on TikTok. I am one of the founders of the Socialist Type House. Been doing TikTok for over a year at this point, which is kind of scary, actually. Go ahead, Comrade Jewel.
Hello, I am Comrade Jewel, also known as Misfit, and on Instagram, that dude Misfit. But I am part of the official Simp Hype House. I've also been on TikTok for almost a year now. Weird.
That's so scary, right? Where's the time go?
Oh God.
Kosher.
I'm kosher. I'm at kosher white wine on everything, except for TikTok, where I'm ML kosher because kosher white wine was struck down by the ban gods. I've been on TikTok since like March, I guess, and I'm in the Simp Hype House.
Okay, well, hi, I'm John, also known as Jerobi on TikTok. I guess I've been on TikTok for just a little bit over a year. I am not in the Simp Hype House, but I bet if you asked random people on TikTok, they probably would think that I was. So
You'd be like, that guy's the founder member. He's pulling the strings.
I'm just saying, I'm sure most of us look up to you, if that helps any.
I know you're like our local
You're a good dude.
celebrity.
really,
I told my parents.
You're almost at 1 million. That's exciting.
He's the OG simp.
Yeah, it's true.
I told my parents, I was like, I'm going live with someone with 1 million followers. Like, this is it for me. Like,
I'm sure isn't one of the things like thou shalt not lie to their parents? I feel like that's a thing.
I lie to my parents all the time. But I told them, I was like, I need to wear a button-down shirt. Like, Dad, get me a shirt. So now I'm here.
Very official.
Yeah.
I feel so underdressed.
So nice. I feel underdressed now.
Me too. I'm in like my Mets shirt.
Live comments?
Yeah, we got live comments.
Yeah,
Jesus,
there
I'm
is
sure.
that comment. We can totally do like comments throughout too if you want to keep it really
Yes,
laid
I
back.
agree.
But I figure like first thing we could go through like the formal like definition of like what toxic masculinity is. And it's a cultural concept of manliness and glorifies stoicness or stoicism, strength, fertility, and dominance, and that is socially I can't say that word, or harmful to mental health. So let's start. Like, what aspects of toxic masculinity do you think you see the most? Like, what is the most powerful one?
I would say over-sexualizing women.
A big question.
I would definitely say over-sexualizing women and definitely taking them as objects, especially on TikTok, right? Because you have a lot of people that, because we all know there's a lot of dancing that happens on TikTok, right? Have you ever clicked on one of those videos and looked at the comments just because 95% of it is very, very nasty? Let's put it that way.
I'm sorry, just before we continue, I wanted to display a comment.
Shut up. I'm 6'3". I'm 6'3". I'm very big.
Look, I'm going to proudly say it. I'm
Short
5'9", Okay, and that's part of toxic masculinity. Who the fuck cares how tall you are?
I care. It's like the one thing about me. It's like it's a real good trait, and everyone's saying I'm 5'7". It's very hurtful.
It's all good.
That's
Now, do you think it's
Man,
strange
you
with
got-
the dancing that there's like a double standard when like men do dance videos? I know like John has experienced this.
Mhm.
There's kind of a weird take on if you were to do like a Charlie D'Amelio dance. Do you want to talk about it a little bit, John?
Oh, well, okay, so how to say this? So, yes, I do dances all the time on TikTok, mostly because I just kind of find dancing to be fun. But, yes, some of the dance moves can be what are considered more feminine dance moves. So, like throwing it back, for example. I'm not like amazing at it, but I do try my hardest. And as we saw, I think it was like 2 months ago, one video I had done that was specifically like targeted towards ending toxic masculinity was just eviscerated by many, I would say, conservative TikTokers. I moved my hips or whatever. And so I think when it comes to the dancing specifically, we are quick to well, when it's coming to toxic masculinity, a lot of the men will basically attack you for doing those feminine dance moves, even if you're killing it. In the case of me, which I like to say. So I'm not to brag, but I think I'm pretty good.
I mean,
I would
you
take lessons.
nailed those dances pretty nice. You got some wiggle. You know?
Speaking of lessons, by the way, Jonah over here, at 20K, which we passed a long time ago, said he was going to throw it back, and he
Wait,
never.
Jonah's gonna throw it back?
Will you teach him how to throw it back? I'll
Oh.
join you.
Yeah, it's for me. I don't really have a butt, so if you don't have a butt,
Me either.
you really have to kind of throw your back into it. You know what I'm saying, like that.
Yeah.
The deal, I
now.
believe the
Jonah,
deal
I know
was,
Jonah is dummy thick.
I
I'm so
believe
hyped right now.
I believe the deal was Renegade at 20K, not throw it back. But
I can do the renegade.
Renegade was so hard to learn.
Hey.
You guys.
I
So
did
do
it
you
for my
think that's-
sister's bat mitzvah.
Sorry for all the spastic
fine.
movement. I'm switching
No,
from
you're good.
one tripod to another one so I can actually there you go. I'm not like
I would,
cranking my neck.
for me, I would say probably the most the biggest example I've seen of toxic masculinity is kind of I would guess say just casual homophobia, where it's like not because you're you genuinely have religious beliefs, but more just you think it's weak to be gay.
Mhm.
Think about how much you hear that's so gay.
Well, and that
And-
ties into the fact that men believe that femininity is weak, right? That ties into the idea that society says women bad, women less than. So I definitely agree with you there, and it's horrible that it's that way because honestly, and I know I'm going to get called a simp for this, but
I think the very nature of this discussion is to get
Right.
called a simp.
I think women are stronger than men in a lot of cases. The things they put up with is insane. John had a video the other day where he was talking about how we'll make a video doing the bare minimums, saying be nice to women, and we get called kings, right? We get called you're doing a good job. Women literally have to bend over
Just throw
back.
that on the back.
Yeah, women have to bend over backwards. They have to be both hypersexual and not sexual at all. They have to do so much to be praised like that. It's crazy.
Mhm.
It's also just
Dancing is antithetical to the advancement of
That's what I'm
social system. Fuck you.
Who said that?
Keaton did.
Oh my
No,
god. CEO
Dancing.
of the Juche gang.
it's just funny because I guess I don't really know. It's just you do the Crazy Bear was saying, doing the bare minimum is still considered good, and it's just because you say elect a woman doesn't mean you're all of a sudden a feminist now.
Right.
Do you think, I don't know how anyone feels, but I remember, and it's still kind of relevant, is this no homo. If you were to show your male friend, right, any sort of emotional support, as females do it all the time, they're just seen as friends. But if you were to go do something with another guy friend who's just like, oh, well, no homo, right? Do you think that plays into toxic masculinity at all?
Absolutely.
Oh,
And that
I
can
mean,
be
there's
really hard too, because like even with your own dad, like literally whenever I hug my dad, it's like this, like we're barely even touching each other. And I think we've said I love you to each other twice in my 28 years of life. It's bad.
Here,
Damn.
yeah, I think here there's actually kind of an interesting question. I don't know if it's satire or not, but I'm going to take it as not satire in the comments. So this is from Harrison Duncan, aka Proud Snowflake. Is wanting to grill toxic masculinity. Now, I feel like that might be satirical, but also I think it's kind of an interesting thing where it's like grilling is like something that's stereotypically like, you know, beers and barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like I feel like to answer that question, wanting to grill isn't necessarily toxic masculinity. Having someone saying men are the one who grill, that's toxic masculinity.
Have you guys ever seen the show King of the Hill? I promise there's a point to this.
I love this
Oh,
show.
well, yeah, of course.
So Hank Hill, right? That is the picture of what society wants men to be. Society wants men to be this uncaring, grilling person. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what society thinks a man is.
Yep.
Right.
I think on like I was thinking about the whole no homo point. It's another way to just dull male emotions, right? I mean, the less close you are with friends, the better. And close can be saying I love you to your friend. Like when I think about my closest male friends, of course I love them. Like these are people that I would like do just about anything for. But how often is that said? Like really rarely, compared to like, I don't know, I guess a relationship, or so I'm told, or you say I love you. Like I feel like it's more often. But like in a relationship with your friends, rarely do you say it, at least for me. And it's not because it's not true, right? We're supposed to be dulled those emotions. Love, affection, all that stuff is considered feminine, which is kind of a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Do you think it's strange the certain situations in which men are permitted to be emotional, which would be like a wedding? I see that that's fine, right? You're like, oh my gosh, that's so great. He's crying when he sees his wife, or when his child's born. But other than that, is there other times that you think are more viewed as like a more okay time to display a more like feminine emotion, like crying? I know that's okay,
Anytime.
but
I was watching a fucking what's that band? Jungle. They have these incredible music videos. There's this song Casio. It's a great song. But there's another one like it's like Highway California or something. I was watching that and I started feeling like my eyes were starting to well up. I was like, damn, this is a really like beautiful image right here. These people are just dancing in a field. And like I'm not sad, but you know what? My eyes are watering. This is beautiful. Like I think that it's a completely appropriate thing for you know, and you know, like the idea of crying should be an appropriate response if it happens. You know what I mean? Like fucking Nick Offerman talks about going to see
Grand Canyon. Yeah, I was about to say it.
Christina Aguilera or something. And he's just like, I was so bereft with emotion that my eyes were. I'm like, yeah, dude, fucking take it in. You see some beautiful art, and you're just like, yeah, do that. I want to see some like, you know, I want to go to the art museum and see some kid who's like, you know, 14 to 17 staring at a painting and just be like, and his buddy's just like, yeah, man, get that. This is the future liberals want.
oh, absolutely.
It's so strange to me too that like society doesn't want men to have emotion or cry or anything like that, right? Because like let's take fatherhood for an example. You can't really be an effective father if you don't address the emotions of your child, right? You can't really help them develop if you're not open with yourself. And like we expect men just to be like Mariah said, just stoic and just completely without emotion. And we even like shame men for even suggesting that they might have emotions. It's just nuts.
Or the emotions that are permitted are like anger
Yeah.
and violence, right? I think violence is or aggression is seen as like a very like hyper masculine trait. And you see it in like a lot of media, right? Like Fight Club or like Legendary with like Tom Hardy. Like those are viewed as like masculine men. How do you feel if you're not? I imagine not many of you are violent in nature. You seem very chill.
No,
Do you-
but when I play video games, it tends to flip.
Well, I think we
Uh,
could probably all agree with that, Jonah.
I
I
mean,
do
like,
pretend to fight ninjas in my backyard with this stick that I have. So I don't know if that makes me violent, but
You should be locked away.
I'm definitely
not-
I'm ready. I'm ready for, you know,
The ninja apocalypse.
exactly. Zombies, ninjas, Proud Boys, whatever. I got a stick.
This is somewhat off topic, but it's an interesting question.
Super violent. That's me.
Have any of you ever been shamed for having like a frappuccino or maybe want a margarita instead of a beer? That happens all
Yeah,
the damn
all
time.
the time.
I hate black coffee and I hate straight beer. I love things that taste good. When did it become feminine to
Whoa.
enjoy things that taste good?
Black
All
coffee.
Gendering
is
foods.
All the time. I like I asked one of my friends, I said, doesn't this mixed drink taste better? And he's like, we're not girls. And he just drank straight vodka. It's why? It's the dumbest possible thing. Like if you like something better,
Drink it.
like if something tastes better, drink
Gives
as
you
much
better
as possible of it.
Like if your goal is to get drunk, maybe the margarita isn't the best way to go compared to straight vodka.
It's sure gonna feel better though, or taste
That's
better.
true.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're trying to, I don't know, incinerate your esophagus just to prove to your friends that you can drink vodka.
My brother actually has 5 rules that he's written out of how to be a man, and one of them is no smiling in photographs, and another one is no fruity drinks. And I find it nuts.
No smiling.
That's insane.
It's just
No,
crazy
no,
too because
straight.
we're just perpetuating this stereotype of what a man is. It's crazy.
Right.
I don't understand why happiness and doing things that make you feel good, well, is this considered feminine, right? I mean, that's
Oh,
an
well, I mean-
absurd thing.
Well,
I
and
gotta
why is
agree.
that a bad thing if it's considered feminine?
I think one of the most detrimental of these sort of roles and stereotypes is this idea that women are clean and neat and men are not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I have in my college days I lived with a bunch of dudes, and for some reason none of us wanted to clean the house, and it was I don't know. There is this idea, oh no, man, that's women's work, and devaluing housework, and whoever ended up doing it, always had to do it,
Mhm.
and it's just why is this a thing now?
So on the topic of devaluing housework, everything that makes us upset as men, it all affects women too, right? If men are less emotional, women are left to do more of the emotion work. If men are less active at home, women are left to do more of the child rearing, more of the cleaning,
Mhm.
more of this, more of the that. I think it's
Right.
important to, I'm sure everyone watching knows this, but when we talk about being a feminist ally and we talk about these things that affect men, these are things that directly affect us, but they directly affect women even more.
Mhm. And
No,
it's, and
absolutely.
it's and it's also this idea that, I mean, as someone that was an online right wing guy for a long time, a lot of the issues that I saw as men's issues are still men's issues, but we frame it through this very specific lens of these issues just affect men, right? And there's no idea where it comes from. When we say that men are devalued in the workforce because they're meant to just do hard labor and stuff like that, that's a serious issue, right? But it's an issue of feminism. Because if we say, hey, well, men actually don't have to be, what we see, I guess, disposable in the workforce is the phrasing that some people would use when it comes to, difficult, mining, off-sea drilling, all that kind of stuff, being, 99.9% male, that in and of itself is an issue of feminism, not femininity causing it, which is what I thought. For some reason, I think as men, it's easier to just point the finger at women and say, they're in the house and they make us go out here and do all this, and they want us to die. They just think we're disposable. But I think when you realize that it's all connected, and it is the patriarchy, and it is this system of oppression that's causing these negative things for everyone, because it's an oppressive hierarchy in and of itself.
Right.
That was a big realization for me.
So this is completely random, but I just thought about when you brought that up. Can we address kill all men? Because a lot of I don't want to generalize, but a lot of Republicans seem to get very butthurt about that, right?
Mm.
And like it's a response to I'm sorry, I know this word is triggering, but rape all women, right? It's a response to that. Does anybody have any profound?
Well, I'm fairly sure John had a little bit of a battle with Nick Foster jokes about this.
Yeah, talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So let's just kind of go through why Kill All Men is satire and can't be seen as anything but satire. And that's because the idea, because I get DMs all the time about how could I be for equality if I'm advocating for the genocide of half of the population, which is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
And the issue is that the reason why it's satire is because no one is killing all men. No one is doing that. It wouldn't be possible. This is the actual definition of an obvious over-exaggeration, right? There's very few examples of real fratricide, right? And so when we talk about, okay, he goes RAW, that's also satire, but it's not. It's not, because when 1 in 5 women, based on the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, experience sexual violence in their lifetime, and 20% of any one part of the population is afflicted by something, that entire part of the population is afflicted by it, right? It's very rare for a woman to not know another woman who has experienced sexual violence, or herself has not experienced it, right? And so for RAW, it can't be satire because it's not an exaggeration, because it already happens in our society, whereas Kill All Men doesn't. And the whole issue with me going back and forth with Nick Foster on this is his defense all the time is always, oh, I was just joking. I'm not making arguments. I'm joking. I'm here to rile up people. Dark humor is supposed to be offensive. Well, actually, dark humor isn't supposed to be offensive. It's supposed to be humor about taboo topics or talking about your own trauma, to bring light to your own trauma, right? And I think that's where the disconnect is here. And of course, it doesn't help that when I like to say, I never actually advocated for Kill All Men. My video simply said, when you all kill all men, can I be spared, please? Right? Like playing a joke on the meme itself. And people took that as me advocating for a genocide of half the population, which, my words are misrepresented.
To me, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like Eat the Rich.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm not actually about to cannibalize Jeff Bezos.
I wish you would.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. Like
an Elon Musk drumstick. That's
exactly.
not.
That's not like it's a fun thing to joke about, but like at the end of the day, if you can't tell that's satire, really do some introspective thinking.
Yeah.
Like if you really think we're advocating for a genocide of all men on Earth, like, come on, really?
And it's the funny, because it's the people that say it's just a joke that are the most offended by Kill All Men.
Yeah.
When I saw that, not once was I like, oh, like, okay, maybe it's a joke, but I better, start getting some provisions, crafting an escape plan in case this actually does happen. Like, obviously not. And yet a guy like Nick Foster or that whole crew of people, those are the first ones to decry it as, oh, look what feminism is. And the moment you come at them for saying something similar, or honestly making a point that really doesn't even come off as satirical, suddenly it's no longer a joke, right? Kill All Men is serious. But if you come after them, it's a joke. Totally a joke. And oftentimes they use satire to drive forth their political messages, I think almost all the time, because nearly everything is political, especially humor. I mean, especially in the realm of gender politics. And they use humor to drive home their message, and they use humor as the shield. Well, it's a joke. Like, don't challenge me on my points. It's a meme. It's satire. They use that as the shield to remove themselves from criticism. And another thing that they'll do is they'll target the other side, right? Okay, yeah, I said Kill All Women was bad, but this guy made a sexist comment and I called him an idiot. Right? That's like the deflection tactic of the radical, the enlightened centrist. Well, I don't like Nazis either, as a defense for like rampant misogyny.
And this is kind of like a point I wanted to get to. I was thinking about, I'm going into this discussion with a bunch of intelligent people. I should probably have something smart to say. So here's my smart thing to say.
Ooh.
Yeah. Very exciting, I know. To me, this toxic masculinity as of recently, it's like really, I would say since the Me Too movement, has become an increasingly reactionary movement to feminism, and has been less about maintaining control, like in terms of like security, and more about lashing out and trying to retain whatever power possible that they can. That's why Nick Foster Jokes has such a large following. That's why Nick Videos is able to get away with the things he does, because at the end of the day, there are people who want an era of toxic masculinity, and things like the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement, and this modern day way of feminism threatens that.
And that's the whole idea of the boys, right? It's like this sacred bond. We talk about it a lot with cops, right? That's like the whole big thing with cops is like this brotherhood where you wouldn't report someone for doing something wrong. But it's very much pervasive on the smaller friend group level of like, don't snitch, like be one of the bros. Where it's like if one of the bros gets accused of sexual assault, like there should obviously not be this veil of protection that we use.
You shouldn't be your bro.
So to build off of that, Kosher, have you guys ever heard of the term bros before hoes?
No, I've never heard of it. I've lived under a rock.
Okay, Jody. You know what? I'm trying to bring it up. Right? So, anyways, that stuff.
I heard whispers of it in ancient tales.
That stuff is so toxic because you're basically saying women are less than, right?
Right.
It's just crazy. But to go back to what something Jonah said earlier, we have sorry to make it political, but we are the socialist hype house. We have a president that is literally he's a misogynist, right? He uses terms. Well, he uses terms like nasty or gross or whatever when he doesn't like what a woman says. And then they're beautiful. They're gorgeous when they're smart or he likes what they say. And I worry that a lot of the right that weren't necessarily as bad as him are starting to get as bad as him. And
even as early as like a year or two into his presidency, we saw parroting of his rhetorical and strategies, and coming from other Republican politicians. So while there's definitely people probably following suit on the misogynistic level as well.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to actually no, I'll wait. There's a better time to bring this up.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say Donald Trump is literally living proof that like sexism and toxic masculinity are not hoaxes.
Yeah.
Like anyone, could you imagine if, and also racism, like could you imagine if Barack Obama was caught on tape saying, well, these women, they just love when you just love when you kiss them. It's like, what? No, Barack Obama could never get away with that. And it's like,
Jonah, I'm going to need you to make a full video impression of Obama.
I won't be doing it of that particular quote.
No, but you definitely need to do it.
But the point is,
while you throw it back.
Can I add something to this? So, and this goes back to Crazy Beard's point. And so there's a lot of people who make the same type of content that I do, right? I became the lightning rod, which is fine, but there's men that talk about this stuff. There's women that talk about this stuff. There are non-binary people that talk about this stuff. And what I notice is that even though I'm probably one of the least attractive people that talk about this type of stuff, I rarely, if ever, get comments on my appearance. Rarely. Because what the comments do is they attack me for what society has deemed most important to men. And that is their like sexual prowess, right? So they say, did she text you back yet? Did your wife's boyfriend let you go online today? She's not going to date you. Now, when I go to one of my female friends' videos who are talking about the exact same thing, they're not saying, did he text you back? They're not talking about their sexual prowess. They're attacking their appearance, right? Because these same people who view men's worth as sexual prowess, they view women's worth as how beautiful they are. And so, I mean, it goes back to Crazy Beard's point that, these people are pushing this idea of toxic masculinity, and that, they don't actually argue any of the points that I make. They basically try to invalidate what I'm saying by calling into question my masculinity, and therefore make other guys who really should be learning something from my videos, make them not want to listen to me. So.
And jumping off of that too, so like society expects women to basically be sexual objects, right? But then we also shame them for that, right? We get mad at them for having, you know, a body count or whatever that is. Like to go back to TikTok drama, that nasty old man who's only 2 years older than me, unfortunately, Tyler Bluntman, who's sexualizing MK. I mean,
The bald man.
Yeah, the bald fuck.
Tyler Bluntman is a bald fuck.
But it's, when I make feminist content, one of the things I want to do is I want to normalize men just treating women as people, right? Like, it's okay to find women attractive. I'm a straight man myself, but you'll never see me jumping straight to anything that's going to hypersexualize somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like, especially since the bald fuck was brought up,
I opened the can of worms. I shouldn't have done that.
No, this is a point though. But like he made a video a while ago saying like why he doesn't like respect trans people's pronouns. And it was like a whole bunch of bullshit. But at the end, he said this thing that was like, I've always been concerned with what the trans end game is for like trans people.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I thought to myself, you were literally just parroting the exact same point people tried to use for gay people when they wanted to get married. They were always like, oh, there's a gay agenda, there's an end game, they want to break down societal barriers. And it's like, have you ever considered that maybe they just want to be accepted for who they are?
Yeah,
like you're trying to look like a tough guy for your followers, so you have to demonize these people.
And he's actually afraid of being gay, though, right? Like, that's what he said. He said, I'm afraid they're trying to make us all be gay.
Yeah. I made a response to that and pointed that out, and I was like, hey, man, it's not a secret conspiracy that's making you feel these things. And then he deleted the video.
And it's all out in the open, too. Like, this idea of this, like, snowball effect of, you know, first they want marriage, and they want this, and they want this. Like, the truth is, people have been advocating for trans rights for a long-ass time. It wasn't like, we got the marriage, like, you know, let's move on to the trans rights now. Like, guess what? Trans people exist. Like, that's not what happened. You know, and people take it to the nth degree. What are you going to do now? Let adults marry kids? And it's like, that's never been a part of that movement, has it? Right? Whereas trans rights have been a part of the movement since well before even Stonewall. Well before.
It's LGBTQ plus.
Are any of you guys anime fans at all? I'm probably the only nerd here, but just
anime? No, not particularly.
I
watched Bakugan when I was a kid.
So there's a term in anime called trap, which is basically a very feminine looking man. And like I feel like people like Tyler literally think that, right? They think they're gonna roll up on someone they find incredibly attractive, and then they're gonna find out they have a penis, and then they're suddenly gay. You know what I mean? Like, they're literally terrified of that, and I can never figure out why.
There's a law about that. I was reading about this. I saw this on TikTok. It's called like a trans panic law. Have you guys heard about this thing?
Oh no!
Is that the same like gay panic defense thing?
Yeah, if you like have sex with somebody or something and they're transgender, you can, I guess, enact violence on them. I'm not sure to the extent of what you can do.
It's basically if you enact violence on somebody and they happen to be like gay or trans, you can be like, oh, they were hitting on me and I felt scared. So
That's what
it was? Yes, I'm sure that's what they do.
Videos about that, but I didn't actually look into it because there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. How many states have that legal?
Well, okay, so to specify how that all works, so the LGBTQ plus panic defense is not necessarily something that gets written into law. It's something that gets written out, right? So lawyers introduced it, right, by using that, and judges accepted that, and we have. I think it's like, I just made a video on this, I should remember, but it's like 6 or 8 states that have banned the use of it. So the other states haven't banned it yet, as far as I understand it.
That is just nuts.
Jesus.
So from
that's like
not to cut peeps off, but so the defense, this is coming from lgbtbar.org. Get away from me so I can read the quote. There we go. Sorry, I couldn't click this thing away. I'm technologically inept. Anyway, so defined by the LGBT bar as a legal strategy which asks a jury to find that a victim's sexual orientation or gender identity is to blame for the defendant's violent reaction, including murder. There you go.
That's just
American
sick.
Bar Association.
I don't understand how that can be something that we just don't immediately say, yeah, that should be illegal.
And what's amazing is that, but look at Tyler. Like, would he want that to be illegal? I mean, that's one guy, but I mean, he literally. I mean, you guys touched on it. I mean, this whole trap thing. Like, people make videos about that all the time. Like, oh, what if I like them and they turn out to be trans? Or something. I see that a lot.
And you know what would happen?
Really, just so disgusting. It's like they would feel totally invalidated because they find somebody attractive, because it's so ingrained that that would be a bad thing.
And see, the way I look at it is, I've had people ask me this recently: would I date a trans woman? The answer is absolutely yes, because if I fell for them, right? If I found them attractive, if I found their personality attractive, I mean, who cares? At the end of the day, they're still a woman. You know?
Right. It's like that's the thing. I thought about this a lot. You know, the whole preference, is it a preference or is it transphobic? But when it comes down to it, it's like, if you just make that hard line law that you would never ever do anything with a trans person before you know any, yeah, of course it's transphobic. Right. It's not that, right? Like, it's not that difficult. If I meet somebody that I find attractive, then they're attractive. And if anything dissuades you about that, sure, you have the ability to not want to do anything, but that comes from transphobia, because of course it does.
And I feel like even if you were somebody that had a problem with, like, maybe the parts not being there, there could still be an emotional relationship.
That's true.
There could still be something that happens. I think it's very silly to be so worried and so scared about, you know, falling for a, you know, I'm not even going to say it because I'm not going to say that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Here, let me just show this comment. It's pretty clever.
Oh no.
Oh my God! Yes. Think about how good that. Think about how well that be. We could legally have our revolution now.
Your Honor, I realize that I did punch this man in the throat, but you have to understand. I didn't think he was conservative.
Your Honor, as a Marxist-Leninist Maoist, principally Maoist, that man was wearing a Trump hat. So I did shoot him.
Hypothetically, in Minecraft, just for legal purposes.
Your Honor, that man was a white man. He was probably a conservative.
Jesus Christ.
Should I
yelling about his Pizza Hut, and I felt scared. We were just in line trying to get pizza, and he started ranting about, like, states' rights, and I was just like, buddy, nah.
Yeah.
I'm very pro-gay marriage. It's states' rights, you know.
I think you were saying something.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the transphobia conversation, because I really want to tie this into the conversation about toxic masculinity, and I think that's where we started.
Yes.
Where oftentimes when we talk about the situation of someone finding out that the person of the opposite gender that they're dating is actually transgender, it's almost always a scenario where it's the cisgender man finding out that they're dating a trans woman, right? And that's always where the issue comes in. I don't know if I've ever heard of an actual scenario where a cisgendered woman finds out that the person that she's dating is actually a transgender man and is panicked by it and is, like, disgusted, and, you know, it's always, and this ties back into the toxic masculinity, because it is what you said, Beard, where it's they find out they have a penis and therefore they must totally be gay in society's mind, and they're and being gay is seen as weak in this society that we have, in the patriarchy. And so it's not, the transphobia is definitely heavy on how cisgendered males view it, right, rather than the other way around. And unless I see evidence that suggests otherwise, that's the. I
mean, yeah, transphobia is definitely inherently tied to, like, the way men view themselves and and, you know, the typical definition of masculinity. You know, like even deviating slightly, or even not so. Like the funny. Hi, I'm bisexual, and for the most part, I get because I present fairly masculine and I kind of look like a, you know, graphic tee wearing dude, bro. Most people give me kind of a pass where it's like, you know, we don't really acknowledge it, but like we know, you know.
I think there's a double standard with that, where there's like bisexual women and it's viewed as like really attractive, whereas like I don't know with bisexual men how that is treated on the male end of the spectrum.
It's weird.
Also a double. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, there's the the fucking yeah, I'm just trying to bone everybody person, and I think that's what most people see me as, especially because my face looks like the Coomer meme, and that's horrifying.
It can be a double-edged sword for women too, because like I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but like women will be accused of just being bisexual just to attract the man. There's that old joke of women born after 1997 can only be bisexual, charge their phone, and lie.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all ever heard that before.
Yeah, there's this. Do you guys know who K.W. Miller is?
Oh my god, I love him.
K.W. Miller is this Republican who's
He's
running.
He's a transcended Republican now.
He's really toxic.
He's terrifying. I'm all Republicans, but
he put out this tweet. It's like a mix of just homophobia, misinformation, and toxic masculinity all in one. So I'm going to read it to you as it's a day in the life of the leftist. Wake up at noon, charge their phone, McDonald's, twerk on OnlyFans, eat hot chips, boycott something, lie, claim to be pansexual, yell Black Lives Matter, shave your head. It's like,
are they wrong?
Ignoring the McDonald's and all that. It's like, really? You think just like being a leftist is just like claiming to be pansexual? Like, really?
I was just like, there's so much rolled into that. It was great.
It's the best tweet ever. I love it.
I follow him, honestly.
I think
OnlyFans specifically, right?
Twerk, and then you twerk on OnlyFans.
Well, I want to talk about the OnlyFans thing because it's something that's like really, really, really. I mean, it's so straightforward. The idea that would you be comfortable with your girlfriend on OnlyFans? And it's this most straightforward example of like male quote unquote like ownership of females or wanting this ownership of like, hey, your girlfriend is using her body in the way that she wants. Right, presumably, because obviously someone can be on OnlyFans for us, but they're using it in the body that they're using their body in the way that they want,
right,
in a sexual manner, and you, in that sense, now are no longer in control of her body, right? That's what that means when it's put online, right? That the body is no longer for you, just you. Other people can see it. Suddenly, you no longer own her, and men are like, well, no, that's not what it's like. I just would feel uncomfortable. And I'm not shaming anyone that would feel uncomfortable because I had that same level of like, I had that feeling where it's like that would make me initially uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie and say that it wouldn't. I wouldn't be like, no, you can't do it. But there would be this level of uncomfortableness. And maybe that's just me. Maybe it's not. But I think it's important we address that, first of all. And second of all, that ownership, that idea that her body is just for you is really scary. I mean, that's really pervasive because it's just below the surface level of saying I wouldn't be comfortable with my girlfriend having an OnlyFans. It's like, right, I own her. Her body is mine. That's really scary to me, at least.
Well, and that bleeds into like, how fathers
pornography and stuff.
That also bleeds into, how fathers will sometimes be like, well, when my daughter has her first boyfriend, I'm going to clean my guns in front of them.
Right.
It's like, why are you so worried about what your daughter's doing?
A T-Pain thing, like.
She's
no, it was a. I think I know what you're talking. It was like this TI. Like that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
I mean, it's been a joke since I've been.
Don't slander T-Pain.
I've heard that forever.
I don't follow.
And like the thing is if you do that to your daughter, if you try to claim her virginity, what you're doing is you're owning her, and that's so toxic.
And even more so, we conflate her virginity and her quote unquote chastity as her worth. Because if you control that, then you control her, which implies that her entirety is her chastity.
And also virginity, when we're talking about, is really also, especially it plays into toxic masculinity that hurts men. It's like it
plays to your worth as a father, in a sense. You know what I mean?
Like your worth as like a young man is coming into your own, becoming a man.
It's like it's like among your friends. No, it's not the charity you've done. It's not the volunteer work you've done. It's not like the friend you are. It's like, when did you lose your virginity?
It's a fake
weird.
Mariah, did you have a point about pornography? Because I think I cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. Pornography, right? Generally, like women who do porn are viewed as like very much less than human. However, male porn stars are really praised. Right, it's the best job in the world.
Johnny Sins, like
Johnny Sins is a god, like Mia Khalifa.
But essentially, they could have like the same body count.
Everything.
What is it with body count? Toxic
masculinity.
That's honestly, I don't even like that word because I feel like even keeping a count is just weird.
Well, you don't like you. Oh, I feel like
Kosher does it. Come on now.
No, you have to keep a list of this stuff because what if you have like an STD or something like that? Like it is important to keep a list of that stuff. I feel like that.
I mean, you can keep a list without like
not like
I would like show people the list and brag about it.
That would be weird.
No, it's not like for trophies. It's for like I feel like it is important.
I know you're not. That's what I'm saying. If you're keeping a list for your sexual health, make sure you know who you've been canoodling with. So that when you get tested, you can be like, "Hey, Betty and Dolores,
how do we get to Betty and Dolores?
How do you know about Betty and Dolores, Joel?
There are no women. No one is born named Betty and Dolores. Someone named Dolores just pops out of the womb, ready to do your taxes.
Why taxes, Jonah? I feel like do you have some trauma in your past that we didn't know about?
I'm serious. Like it's like no one's actually like no one is born named Humphrey. Like I refuse to believe that anyone was actually chosen. Like no parents choose the name Humphrey.
I'm gonna have Humphrey's sitting in his room right now. He's in this chat. Just
could you imagine?
We're getting the hour mark. Do we want to start taking live questions?
Sure. If there's anything else anyone wants to talk about, I mean, pretty much the list that I had, it was pretty well gone through without like my guidance. I can't speak.
We're still happy to have you because I personally still feel it'd be weird if it was just a bunch of guys talking about feminism.
No, I think like a fantastic job, and you didn't speak necessarily on women's issues, but how being a feminist also benefits a man.
That's actually a good thing to talk about. What is it? We'll go around the table real quick. What is everybody's ideal outcome of feminism? We can talk about that real quick.
Abolition of genders.
Cool.
Just get rid of gender norms.
For me, that would be the end goal. In the intermediate, I would want to see kind of an extreme push for acceptance of coming forward with rape accusations, and also policies that would quite literally pay people for being a mother.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the, if not the hardest job in the world. Like, just physically and mentally. That would be my goals.
I would agree with all that, and I would just add that in the interim, like the right now, we have to do a much better job about listening to women when they come forward, and that goes whether you agree with them ideologically or not. Because like I know a lot of us don't support Biden, but there are some people on leftist TikTok that do still support Biden, and they're doing this double standard with Tara Reid, and they're tearing her character apart and just looking for reasons not to believe her. Like, come on.
It's sickening. That's
irresponsible.
Someone who like will look at me and they'll say like, I have the moral high ground because I'm telling you to vote for a rapist. And it's just like, wow. Like the level of suddenly we throw all of our principles away. What if the person you're talking like I don't even understand the idea of taking someone in the eye.
As much as I was disillusioned with the Democratic Party, Tara Reid really pushed me over the edge because like so many people who were like, believe Christine Blasey Ford, believe all women. Now that it's like Tara Reid coming forward and accusing, one of your guys, very quick to switch up.
And of course they're like, and look at the evidence. The evidence is dubious. Like, of course it's dubious. Like, look at the timeline of what happened. Like, do you expect her to have like Polaroid photos? Like, I don't understand. And then they'll like bring up her life. This is my least favorite thing. They'll bring up her life after the assault and be like, oh, she's proven to be X, Y, and Z. And it's like what? That's like someone saying, like, oh, I had a traumatic time in the military. And it's like, well, after the military, you experienced a lot of bad stuff because of PTSD. Like, what does that have to do with, like those things are clearly related, are they not?
Right.
Like, yeah. Oh, wow, she had a difficult life, though, after she was sexually assaulted. That makes her less believable or something. Like, I don't understand that train of logic at all. It's blinding yourself and using your principles.
Anywho, we were the question that was posed is, what are the goals of your ideal goals of feminism? So
I'm sorry to start that. I just
It's all good.
Jewel, did you want to answer?
Little tangent. No, that was a good tangent. But yes, I did. So for me, a lot of my concerns, and I'm trying to like focus more of my content around this is art and expression and the importance. And I think that toxic masculinity and a lot of the ideas around it are harmful to the way that men are allowed to express themselves artistically, which then I think ripples out into how they can express themselves interpersonally. I think as John has experienced, there is a lot of negativity around men dancing and dancing in ways that are perceived as feminine, and this filters or not filters, but this sort of like trickles down into other, just sort of a demonizing of movement, and there are other conversations that to be had about society, dance, sexuality, and people and whatnot. But I won't. I'll try and not get into a giant tangent. But I do think that it's a very stifling part of the patriarchy that sees the general population of men not really understanding why you would take the time to paint a picture or learn a dance or play an instrument or
pet a cat.
What's up?
I was just being random. I said
pet a cat, or even pet a cat, and like that's such a weird thing. Like I have a cat. Like I didn't realize that there was like a guys that have cats are feminine thing until I got a cat, and I was like,
cats.
No, I just make fun of people who have cats in general because I don't like cats.
I don't like cats.
Oh no, I'm just saying there's also like there's that aspect to it too. It's very minimal, but like I love my cat. Cats are great. Fuck you.
Kosher.
So my sort of social views tend to be more conservative than more conservative than progressives. No, more Hegelian, because my philosophical school is definitely Hegelian. So I think the end goal is definitely gender abolition for me as well. But I think it would manifest itself a little bit differently in terms of when it would manifest itself. This could maybe go into the next question about intersectionality and why feminism is so important to me. But I think, if we're just, my end goal with feminism would be gender abolition way down the line. But I think maybe it would manifest itself a little differently.
Cool, John.
So for me, it would probably be seeing a future where we have equal representation in institutions, so that the institutional power, which is at the root of the patriarchy, is broken. So, and not just talking about the government, which there is still not enough representation from women, not enough representation from the LGBTQ plus community, racial minorities, but also play things like the media, for example, which is super important. We've seen how the public can perceive things differently depending on who's reporting the story. Representation in high roles in business, right? So more CEOs that are women, more CEOs that are people of color, right? So all across all the institutions that basically run all of our lives at the current moment, that there would be more equal representation in that. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of our Congress, not to get specific, but most of our Congress looks like me, minus the beard.
I wish they looked like you.
So
With the beard.
Did we
I
have
have a
any
question from
questions, though?
Cog.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mr.
this one has a trigger warning.
do you think
Here we go.
OnlyFans
Here we go.
is?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't
Absolutely.
I don't know.
In terms of like the men feeling like they can own women, I think it's the same kind of thing. Obviously, just
Yeah.
exaggerated. Because I remember when I was younger, I mean way younger, the French prime minister at the time was accused of assaulting a prostitute, right? And I remember saying to my dad, I said, well, I mean, I was probably 7 or 8. I was like, how does that even happen? How can you do that, right? Didn't he pay her? Because that was kind of my understanding. And he explained to me, no, like, you know, she can at any moment be like, no, I'm no longer interested in whatever's happening. And that was sort of, you know, oh, you know, you sort of understand that. But of course, coming from that understanding of ownership and transaction when it comes to sex, it's very capitalist, and it also is very patriarchy focused, right? The man has paid the woman, now he gets what he wants, right? And I feel like that has to do with marital assault stuff too, because they're now in sort of this. But it's not a bond, then, is it? Right? If you can do whatever you want to your wife, of course it's not a bond. It's ownership. Same as any of these things. It's transactional. You know.
So I think it now would be a good time to maybe move into the Q&A part.
Well, that's
With-
what we're doing, Jonah.
Oh, I didn't realize. I
Come
thought
on, John.
Mariah was just. I thought Mariah
Come
was
on,
just
Someone would
displaying.
comment to put.
I thought Mariah was just
instead.
displaying a specific
Get
question.
him out of
that
here.
she
Get him
thought-
out of here.
Okay, Coach, this is my stream card. Okay.
Does anybody, does anybody have any
I
more
have
questions?
any questions? So what's going on in my brain? A lot of these are statements. Where's the question
That's
mark?
true. Where are the question marks, guys?
Please include a question mark,
Yes.
please.
But I think
What else did I have on my sheet?
Oh, the biggest.
Wrapping up here. Is there any advice any of us have to anyone?
How to be a good feminist ally.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
I don't know.
I would say the best thing you can do personally, in my opinion, just talk about it. You got to make it normal. You got to make it normal to talk about these things. And if you're a man who wants to pet a cat or paint their nails or dye their goddamn beard, you do it. You do what you feel.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I would say my biggest thing would be learn about history, because I feel like the more you learn about history, the more you actually understand what like leftists will say about socialism, what feminists are trying to convey about feminism. Because like I remember like as I learned more and more about like American history and like in terms of foreign policies in particular, like my attachment to America as a country really started to just waver and fade, and it's almost gone completely. Because I learned about our history. I learned past the surface stuff of like World War II and Pearl Harbor and you know, the war against terror. It's like when you actually learn about like when you learn just the more details you learn about a topic, the more you actually know about a topic. So if you want to be a good feminist ally, I would say just learn about feminist history and the history of oppression in terms of the patriarchy.
And some good feminists to learn would be Angela Davis,
Thomas Sankara.
Well,
Thomas.
I was thinking more like females to start with, but yeah, Sankara's great too.
A Russian one was Alexandra Kollontai. She worked with Lenin.
We have
Was
some
she
questions, I think.
Was she the female?
Yeah,
sniper?
here's one.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, good question.
Anything about these stereotypes in the entertainment industry? What stereotypes specifically?
yeah. I mean, we have all these stereotypes, race, gender, and all that stuff.
Well,
I think they're
I
pervasive.
think
What do you think of like popular movies?
I think what they're talking about is they're talking about the fact that like, so I don't know how much it happens now, but like, do you guys remember shows like King of Queens and Everyone Loves Raymond and all these sitcoms where there was this, and I'm sorry, I'm a fat guy, but I'm going to say it, right? There's this fat, kind of homely looking guy with a super attractive woman by society's standards. Like,
Right.
it just goes back to that expecting women to be this very specific thing, you know?
So, and I also like the first thing that came to my mind was the Avengers, right? Like when you think of the original Avengers, like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Widow, like Hawkeye is the expert marksman, Captain America is the leader, Tony Stark is the billionaire, Meanwhile, Natasha Romanoff is like, they first introduced her in Iron Man 2 as like the assistant turned spy.
Also,
Like-
she does suck. She also does suck, though.
She does not suck. You take that back.
Where did she defect to America from, and who is she working for now?
Dude, there's a
I mean, I
There's a
guess-
Black Widow movie coming
She-
up. Would
She
you
defected.
relax?
She defected to capitalist America over Comrade Stalin and decided
Okay.
to work
Wait,
for
wait.
capitalist.
We're not going.
Wait. Stalin died in
Hold
like
on.
the 50s.
Hey.
Natasha Romanoff.
We're focusing
not
on
like-
feminism, kosher.
And look at her last name.
I'm gonna
And
throw
look
up
at-
another question.
And look at her last name. Disgusting.
What do you guys think of intersectionality and feminine? I mean,
All for it.
very.
Yeah. Essential. Essential.
It's yes, it is. Unless you're. I was.
You good?
You're really not a feminist if you're not intersectional, because
Yeah, if it's not
like
if it's not,
TERFs, TERFs
J.K.
are
Rowling.
intersections.
I was just about J.K. Rowling. I think is what most I don't want to blanket statement say men, but in generally men think that it's just like women. But like J.K. Rowling is like it has to be like a cis woman, white
J.K.
cis woman,
Rowling
and ignore
can-
all of the other confounding variables that contribute
so
and
glad
that need to be addressed.
I'm so glad she died when she finished writing the series and just didn't.
J-
Yeah, R.I.P.
J.K. Rowling is very. J.K. Rowling.
Don't shake your head like that. That was a funny joke.
Do you
I
think
like that.
I didn't shake my head.
toxic masculinity can be solved without getting rid of misogyny?
Um,
What? No.
No.
Misogyny is like the highest form of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, you don't want to. That's
I don't
the gluten that you got to take out of the bread. You know what I mean? You don't want the when you get rid of when you solve toxic masculinity, essentially misogyny will also go away. Why would you want misogyny? I'm confused by the question.
Also, this is not a question, but this person said, "Okay, I'm going to stand y'all now." In the comments, so we all have a stand.
All right, we got another one.
Nice profile.
What do you think would be a better way
It's
to
right on the
describe
mark.
toxic masculinity without men seeing it as an attack rather than a result of the pay?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think.
I do this all the time, right? The way I describe it in like my TikToks is I say, look, if you're a man and you get shamed for painting your nails, dyeing your beard, petting a cat, that's stuff that directly affects you, right? And I think men respond better to
Yeah.
like learning what affects them, learning that they can't have that frappuccino because they're gonna get shamed for it, or they can't have that margarita because they're gonna get shamed for it.
And
I
that
think telling
banana
men
in
what
public.
affects them really helps them get involved.
and that toes a line though. Like, and I totally agree with you. And I think it's one of the better ways. That's how I first got into contact with feminism, when I realized that I was agreeing with most of their points. But it is true that we get sometimes comments in the Simp Hype House when we talk about men's issues, to make sure that we aren't like sort of looking at women's issues like through the guise of men's issues, right? Like using the struggles of men to. We've got to make sure that we're using those struggles to like elucidate the struggles of women as opposed to like downplay them. And I think that's kind of an important thing. And I'm not saying you're doing that, obviously, but I think that when we like look at through the eyes of men, at the struggles of men through the patriarchy, I think it's important that we are really kind of looking at who it affects the most and what it's being done,
Yeah, it's just a starting point. After
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
you have to look at it and you have to say, okay, well, that's happening because women are expected to be X and women are suffering X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
It's kind of like the Roma army thing. Like, I know it's quite controversial, but she did bring a lot of views of like men's struggle into like the public platform. It kind of evolved into something not so great, but I think it was still important and now we can tie it all together, right?
Right.
Let's see, we got another one.
Do we want to do like
I
maybe
think-
2 more and then
Yeah.
wrap up?
There we go.
Can
Sorry, I got
toxic,
stuck.
That's from
No.
the
No, it
separation
absolutely.
of the
can
gender.
toxic masculinity be
Well, I
done
think-
away with if
I think I
capitalism?
know that 5 of us probably would say no, so I would just ask John, what do you think?
Yeah,
of that question.
good point.
Not to put you on the spot.
It's
Yeah,
all good.
this is,
I'm not going to attack you, I promise.
I
so
will.
the overlapping. I mean, I guess the question is toxic masculinity inextricably intertwined with capitalism? I think if we look at this in a purely historical sense, the answer would be yes to that. I don't think our society has experienced capitalism in any sort of way that would allow for toxic masculinity to not exist, and so I don't think I don't think there would be a way to get rid of it without also getting rid of toxic masculinity along with capitalism. So I think the answer would be no, along with the rest of you.
Yeah, I think that some of the cultural stuff we're talking about, like making women feel more comfortable with coming forward with rape accusations, that can be, I think that can exist within a capitalist framework, but the ultimate oppression and systematic just keeping down, for a lack of a better word, I don't really think that can be.
The word you're looking for is oppression.
Right, but I didn't really feel like saying oppression again, Crazy Beard.
Go on.
But no, I don't think that can be done away without doing away with capitalism. Comrade John?
Comrade John?
Well, there's also this one,
Comrade
too.
John?
I think this we can end on this one.
Feminine.
I think that it would take more than communism for true feminism and true egalitarian stuff like that to achieve. I think what you would need is Hegelian freedom of thought, ascended freedom from all dogma, ascended freedom from all social construction, to truly achieve an egalitarian world. I think that we're a couple, Hegelian shifts away from that. Being realistic, I don't see communism as like the final synthesis. I think that's just a little foolish, but I think that it will do wonders. I think we need to be moving towards that, but fully egalitarian society. To me, even
I
under
would
communism.
say I would disagree a little bit, because I would say you would get pretty close to true feminism once you have socialism, because once you start to get rid of capitalism, once you start to get rid of the class antagonisms, I think achieving equality will not be as difficult as we think it is. Look at the Soviet Union. I mean, Mariah can attest to this. They did so much for women's rights. Yes, they made other mistakes, but
I know Mariah said this. She wanted that to be the last question. I saw one more question that
you want to do the?
I wanted to show. So this is just from Cog. The red line for me with partners is their family threatening me, a man. But this is seen as acceptable towards men. Is this unreasonable? How is it tied into masculinity in your view?
Is this like the you could talk to me but don't talk about like my wife or kids type thing?
Well, this is like a the dad cleaning a shotgun, like
cleaning the guns. Yeah.
You hurt my daughter. I'm coming for you.
Got it.
I got a shovel and a shotgun, and we don't call the cops. It
goes back to ownership, right? It goes back to I own my daughter. Yeah. I own her. So I would say no. It's not acceptable. It's not reasonable. It's
also. Could you imagine like your dad's, like, you bring home a partner and they just like clean their shotgun in front of them?
That would be so weird. That would be so weird.
That'd be the weirdest thing ever.
Story. I did bring home one girl once, and my dad's he's a very quiet, stoic man. He literally said one word to her. He said, "Hi," and that was all he said for an hour and a half dinner that we had. It was so damn awkward because my mom's sitting here talking her up, and I'm talking her up, and Dad's just sitting there doing nothing.
What a king. What a king.
All right. I think, Mariah?
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for coming and watching. This was really good. I'm hoping to do more of these, not necessarily me hosting it, but just having more of these on the account, because I think these conversations are really important. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot that we can take away from them and hopefully build on in the future.
Yeah, we'd be happy to have all of you back for sure.
And since I recruited all of you, I just want to say thank you, John, thank you, Joe.
Thanks for
thank Jewel, thank you, Kosher. Thanks for coming, man. You guys
for having me on.
And if you guys want to talk more, we'll always be active in the Discord.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to end the. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. We have book club and debate club.
You have a debate club?
Yep.
Oh,
I run it.
What do you guys debate?
We work on debating tactics and we debate random topics.
We can always talk about this in the
We can talk about this another time, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Age restrictions for living.
All right, I'm going to end it real